The other day I got this comment on a video, and to be honest, it has me worried. Reboot Red says, "I'm thinking of starting to play D&D with my daughters." Okay, pause. First off, this is heartwarming. You gotta love a parent looking for good things to do with their kids. I'm just feeling all those warm fuzzies here. Are you feeling it? Okay, but the rest of the comment. None of us have played. Is it still worth playing in 2025? I only ask as I've seen videos saying it's not worth it. Any help and guidance is greatly appreciated. Now, this is just one comment, but I have gotten a lot of similar comments over the last couple of years, and here is what has me worried. For better or worse, Dungeons & Dragons is the standard bearer for this hobby. It is the only household name that reaches outside the niche of our hobby significantly. Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu, Shadowdark, and many other games are really popular, but they are nowhere near the household name that Dungeons & Dragons is. For new people who are thinking about getting into D&D, there is often very little concept of other tabletop role-playing games. They're introduced to this amazing hobby of RPGs through the gateway of Dungeons & Dragons. There are obviously exceptions to this, but it seems to be the way it usually works. So for the first part of this video, I just want to lament the fact that the problems with D&D these last couple of years could actually be scaring people away from this amazing hobby. I think it's very possible that people looking in from the outside thinking D&D sounds fun are seeing Reddit posts, TikToks, and other YouTube videos about how terrible D&D has become, how it's all going down the tubes and Wizards of the Coast is ruining everything and all that stuff. I think it's very possible these people are seeing that stuff and instead of saying, well, maybe I should look into other tabletop RPGs, they're instead saying, maybe I'll stick with Magic the Gathering or Baldur's Gate 3 or our monthly Gloomhaven game. All fun games as well, great ways to pass time with your friends. But tabletop RPGs are special, they're amazing, and I, like many of you, want more people to try them out. Now, I want to be clear that I don't blame content creators for painting an inaccurate picture of D&D. Sure, there are some that go a little in the sensationalist direction, or are a bit too quick to react or judge, but by and large, those sounding the alarm about how D&D is going down the tubes are not to blame. Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, the parent company, are to blame. The higher-ups have made decisions that reveal their own corporate greed, and they've brought this on themselves. But personally, I don't revel in their failures. They make me sad. While I do want people to try other games and support independent game designers, I want D&D to be good, and I want for them to make decisions that make the game better and don't hurt third-party content creators or consumers. And we also need to recognize that there are a lot of good people who work on D&D who also are probably really frustrated by the decisions of their higher-ups. Now, I don't want to just leave this in a place of saying it sucks and I'm not happy about it. I think it's important for us to move through our sadness and frustration into positive action. I'd love to hear what you think, but here are some of my suggestions for where we can start. Firstly, people shouldn't keep silent about their problems with D&D. If we love this hobby, let's continue to critique. Move on to other games, but if you have the capacity to stay engaged with what is going on with Dungeons & Dragons, continue to share your opinions about it. And if you don't have the capacity, move on completely. Enjoy the games you enjoy and walk away from D&D. We don't owe them our allegiance or any level of investment. We don't owe Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast anything. Yes, what happens to D&D impacts our hobby as a whole, and I for one want to stay engaged. But honestly, given all the noise and controversy, I don't blame those who just walk away. It's kind of like the news these days. I used to be a news junkie, going to various websites throughout the day, listening to NPR quite a bit. I can't tell you how much better it's been for my mental health to keep all that at arm's length. I still read the news a bit, I still listen to the radio, I try to stay informed, and I still vote and try to do my part. But unplugging from the daily who said what sort of news has been really liberating for me, and I'm better off because I changed my relationship with the news. So, for D&D news, ask yourself, is staying up on the latest gossip about D&D or the latest misstep on the part of Wizards of the Coast good for me? If not, disengage. Play the games you enjoy with your friends. Life is short. But for those of us who do have the capacity to stay engaged with the latest news, let's continue to make our voices heard the way we all did with the OGL scandal 2 years ago. Keep pushing them to do better. But let's also be aware of how us putting down D&D can be detrimental to the hobby if we're not also promoting good alternatives. Personally, I would like to believe that D&D doesn't have to be the only household name in the game forever. If there's enough momentum behind some new games, it isn't out of the question that some of them could emerge as household names. And I'm interested in what you think the best alternatives out there are at this time. Is there one game you think could ever break through with more name recognition in the mainstream? Are there games you think actually have? I'll tell you a story about one that broke out of its niche and reached me. It's the first RPG I ever played, and this is back in 2014, and it's not D&D. You see, when I first learned about this hobby in early 2014, many fans of D&D had taken to Pathfinder role-playing game from Paizo. I remember hearing about it several months earlier on a video game podcast called the Giant Bombcast as a good alternative to D&D. Pathfinder was successful because D&D had veered off the beaten path into the largely unpopular 4th edition. Whoever mentioned it, and I think they sent the Giant Bomb crew the beginner box, like an actual physical box in the mail, was not content to say, "No, don't play D&D guys, 4th edition sucks." They promoted an alternative. So at the time I heard this, I wasn't really interested in tabletop RPGs, but that episode of that podcast, or maybe it was a video on their website, stuck with me. So that when I did become interested in the hobby in spring of 2014, I went to Pathfinder, and I was hooked. Those little mentions and recommendations can have an impact for people who are looking into playing D&D. I think a lot of content creators are doing a great job promoting alternatives. It's great to see that channels like Questing Beast, Seth Skorkowski, and many others can be very successful while covering almost exclusively non-D&D RPGs. I think it's very likely those channels are winning people over to other games. And channels like Bob Worldbuilder certainly are, because he often talks about D&D, but also covers other games and tries to get people to try other things. Since day one, I've kind of been trying to do the same. I've made a lot of D&D videos over the years, but I've been consistent in reviews of other games as well. But the reality is, for a lot of channels, including my own, it can often feel like D&D has the name recognition to get us more views. If I want to make a video about TTRPG maps, it will certainly do better if I call it a D&D map. That seems to be the case. Using D&D as a stand-in for TTRPG is really common, and it seems to be more effective at getting eyes on your stuff, but I could be wrong on this. I think there's a lot to say for quality content that engages audiences. And when searching around on YouTube for non-D&D TTRPG channels, I was actually really surprised by how many are getting views. So I probably need to break out of this mindset a little bit that it's gotta be D&D if I wanna get views. It just doesn't seem to be the case. It also might be the case that since I have some really popular D&D videos, that my subscribers, my viewers, are just not as interested when I do a review of Mouse Ritter or Dragonbane. Those just don't do very well for me. Whereas Questing Beast and Seth Skorkowski have built audiences around other games. So, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt here in terms of the power of the D&D name. But personally, I have a huge interest in helping newcomers in this hobby find that they can do this. They can play tabletop RPGs. They can create a character. They can be a game master and run games for their friends. And my videos are generally going to find more of those people when they're about Dungeons and Dragons. The newcomers are not looking for random TTRPG content, they're often looking for Dungeons and Dragons content. That's my impression. I'm open to your thoughts on it. Is it effective or smart for content creators like me to use D&D as a gateway drug for getting people into other tabletop RPGs? Whatever your thoughts on that, it is lamentable that D&D has become a pariah to so many former fans. I don't really know if the negative press about D&D is keeping people out of tabletop RPGs as a whole, but the thought that it could be makes me really sad. I will say one positive thing to come out of the OGL scandal and some of WotC's other missteps is that people are trying more games. There are tons of amazing creators making great games, and I, for one, hope they keep growing and getting a bigger piece of the pie. I hope they can become household names too. A monopoly, a hobby dominated by one company or one game, isn't good for any of us. Alright, keep gaming all. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and everybody take care. You'll see me again very soon.